is my first time live. And it's a little nerve wracking, but I'm going to do it. I am going to talk about the Bible hoax. I know how confusing it must be because when I first had the idea that maybe it wasn't real, I couldn't tell anybody. They thought I was crazy, and most of them still do, unfortunately, because they won't look at the evidence. Why is that? I think of all the things in the world, the thing that really upsets me most is that people refuse to look for truth. It's like we come into the world and we expect it to be there for us. We expect our parents or our grandparents or the teachers or the newspapers or the books or the library or the politicians or the pastors. It's like we expect someone to have a handful of truth for us. And so we just assume that what we're given is truth. You assume that your parents are your parents, right? Well, I've known quite a few people that have not known who their parents were. And they've lived with them, maybe as an aunt or something else. And so, how important is truth? To me, it's everything. And that's why this channel, because there have to be other people that recognize the importance, the value, the critical nature of truth. Sometimes I believe, studying back and recognizing that there are so many earth ages before us, that there have been cycles of history separated by cataclysm. And during those cycles, humanity changed. Now, whether when I first started, realized that we weren't like made out of atom, but we were made out of atoms. And a lot of people like to think that Paul was like heretic and he had this organic thing he was trying to say, but that's not true. We can make truth out of anything. That's an interesting perspective I've had from doing this research. We can take something and find truth in it, and then we swallow it, kit and caboodle. The first glimpse we get of something being true, and it's like it's truth, and then we start passing it on. I'm guilty. I am really guilty. Because before I started this, I was gullible, very gullible. Anything I heard, I knew that if it wasn't true, I could use it for a story or get a lesson out of it. And all that's fine until we get down to recognizing that we're not here forever. I'm not talking about me at 72 years old, that I'm going to die. I've reckoned that. I've never been afraid of death. I don't know why. I had to deal with it early in life with my brother. As a matter of fact, when I was 20, I preached my very first funeral for my brother. And I've just never been afraid of death. And I know that we're all going there. But what about the younger people that haven't had full lives like me? What about them? Do they deserve an opportunity to live life authentically? Is that something that we want to offer people? We just didn't think we'd ever have to fight to get some authentic truth. We assumed that it would come with the territory, and it didn't. We have to look for truth and fight for it in today's world because we're in an information world. And that's the weapon of the day. Who do you believe? And even, it's so easy to believe something that's incorrect. And I've had to be really careful because it's easy to get paranoid after doing this stuff for a while. You begin to just, everything's a conspiracy, right? And so you have to be so careful. I have lists that I've created of criteria for inspecting information. And that's the way I keep myself honest. I ask myself, is it true? Go through all the list. Who is the character? Who knew them? What was going on at the time? Who had, who might benefit from the information? Who, blah, blah, blah. And that's the only way to be truthful. And then you find out that all of history is not truthful. None of it. None of it. I'm telling you, none. I heard not too long ago that everything after Alexander the Great you could count on. Ha! No. I think it's more likely the opposite, depending on who you're reading. The only way we know history is by talking to someone that was there, reading accounts that are reconciled and universal. So if one man writes something here, then we're going to look to see what other man wrote about that, right? And that's why the Bible doesn't hold up worth crap. The Josephus story, Josephus was the main historian of Bible literature. And he was a Jew, and the story is a frickin' riot. The story goes, I was in teaching Vacation Bible School, and a girl came in and told the kids, listen, we know about Jesus because of Josephus. And so I started looking. Well, I found this story, which is a horrible story. And you look at the character of Josephus and you go, oh my gosh, there's no way. And so people believed it. And the story is Rome made him the historian. Well, he was a fake person. He never lived. And I had to go through Doug Vogt to find that. So let's go over some Bible information, right? Where do you want to start? For me, I started with looking at scripture and looking at the people who wrote it or supposedly did. And my first thought, oh dear, my phone's getting dead. My first thought was I'm going to check out the authors. And so you start to do that. And hold on with me a minute. I might have to get right back. Oh, I got Peoples. I know how to make my phone. Hold on. Right there. Well, what'd I do? I have no clue. It won't let me open it, but all right. Okay, I'm gonna have to end it, get my act together, and I'll come back and I'll have a bunch of paperwork to show you.